Hello students, I hope you are well. Today's lesson is all about something that you've heard 1,000 times. It's all about skill or skilled performance. As always, if you want to access the lower grades, you just have to tell me the basic facts, describe and explain them, tell me what, that's in red. If you want to access the middle grades, then you have to apply to sport and be analytical, that's written in blue. And if you want to access the higher grades, that's written in green. You have to be critically evaluative. You have to tell me the strengths and weaknesses, discuss the pros and cons. So, straight to skilled performance. What is it? What is a skill? Because you are often asked this in your exam. Well, I've said here that skilled performance are learned abilities in order to achieve desired outcomes. That's what we all strive for as sportsmen. They are learned abilities. That's the crucial aspect. We learn skills. They're learned abilities. So use that phrase and you'll get your marks. Why do we want to improve skill? Why? So it's a green question for the higher marks. And basically the answer is because you want to move from being a cognitive learner, a beginner, to an autonomous learner, an elite performer. Alright, so what are the basic characteristics of skilled performance? Well, I think there are three main characteristics that you have to exhibit to be skillful. That's good technique. That's what you all understand about skill, really. Good technique. You've got to be effective, because some elite performers, you wouldn't say they have the perfect technique, but they're incredibly effective. I'm thinking of some golfers who have quite an unusual swing, but they're still pros and multimillionaires out of it. And then you have to have great decision making if you want to say that you're a skilled elite performer. Alright, now I'm going to go to the one that you probably know most of all, and that's all about technique. Skilled technique. So, technique. If a skilled performer, if an elite performer has fantastic technique, then think about what that means. It often means these three things, and I've put an asterisk by them. It often means that they exhibit accuracy, consistency, and they do it really confidently. So, three key characteristics out of the 7 of skilled performance: accuracy, consistency, and confidence. And then there are 4 more. Think about any performer that you know who performs at that elite level. What else do they exhibit? Well, they're often very efficient, very effective, controlled, and aesthetic. What does aesthetic mean? It's pleasing on the eye. It just looks great. It looks effortless. So 7 characteristics of skilled performance. Now, in your exam, they also like to talk about the classification of skills. And there's 3 continuums that we have to know. The first continuum is basic to complex. And you have to give examples. Now, this is all about the degree of difficulty. So a great example for a basic skill is something like running. The decision making around running is not great. It's not really open to interpretation. It's not a complex movement. It doesn't require an awful lot of coordination and control. So a basic skill, running, jumping. That's the example. Go for the obvious example in your exams. A complex skill, go for one. Go for something like diving, a triple backwards somersault from the high board. That would be a complex skill. Or a double forward somersault in tuck position in trampolining. Obviously there's huge complexity of movement. There is a lot more in-depth, detailed decision making. In green, when it talks about basic skills, it will often talk about what type of learners learn the basic skills. So that would be a cognitive learner, a beginner. But it also asks what type of practice is it good to develop basic skills. Now that type of practice is a fixed practice, and we're going to do that in future lessons. But while you know now, a fixed practice So something that you can repeat where the environment and the variables are all controlled, that would be a fixed practice. In a complex skill, that would be whole practice. You practice it in a small-sided game or in a full-sided game. You practice the skill in its entirety, in a changing environment where the variables aren't controlled. And what type of learner would that normally be? Well, that would be an autonomous learner, a learner at the top of their trade. Open and closed skills. So that again, this is on a continuum, the same as basic and complex skills. We have open and closed. So basically here, it's asking you, what is the impact of the environment? So what are the certain things that change in that environment? Well, it might be the weather. It might be the type of pitch you're playing on. It will be the opposition. It will be maybe the spectators. Open skills. Skills where, so for example, it might be a centre midfield footballer. His skills are open skills. Everything is changing around him. The movement of the opposition, the movement of his teammates. He does have to consider the surface that he's playing on. The spectators put him under an awful lot of pressure or no pressure. So that very much, a centre midfield footballer is very much an open skill. Whereas a closed skill might be something like pistol shooting, where it's the same skill over and over. There may be a little bit of, it might be not right at the end because the weather might affect pistol shooting. There might be a strong wind, so they have to take that into consideration. Same as in archery, it might be the wind that slightly affects that environment. So one that darts throwing would be more of a closed skill, or snooker. The table's always the same. It's an indoor environment. Again, let's go on to those higher grades, the critical evaluation. When the exam talks about open skills, again, the type of practice to develop open skills is a varied practice, again, where things are constantly changing. And it's kind of team games. I said a centre midfield footballer, as opposed to more individual type games for a closed performance. And that again would be a fixed practice, where you can practice the same thing over and over again, where variables are controlled. All right, the last continuum that we need to talk about when we're talking about the classification of skills, we've had basic to complex, we've had open to closed, and the last one is self-paced to externally paced. Basically in self-paced, you control the speed at which you perform that skill. Externally paced, it's an awful lot of the environment that determines how quickly that skill is paced. So the pace is set by 1, who controls the skill, 2, decision making, 3, speed of reactions, and 4, the influence of the opposition. Again, in green for those higher levels, because they don't talk about these things in isolation. They like to draw in different parts of the sports psychology. When we're talking about self-paced, then that's the performer who controls it. Something like snooker shot, a darts throw, a javelin throw, shot put. You decide when you go, how quickly you do it. You wait for the perfect moment. Cognitive learners, self-paced and fixed practices, whereas externally paced, it's often in open skills, in a team environment, and to practice it would be whole practice. As I said, don't worry too much about the types of practice, because we're going to do that in future lessons. Alright, so skill, technique, you think you knew all about it, and now we've put some meat on those bones. Please, my GCSE group, watch this video a couple of times. Write this all down in your blue books. Test yourself. Get your parents to test you. Download the presentation from Show My Homework, pop it onto your mobile phones as part of your video library of all my lessons, and keep looking over it when you're in the car, when you've got dead time on a bus, on a train. Just look over the videos on YouTube or look over the presentation on your phone. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Take care. Bye-bye.